We had a question from one of the Blue Line Academy members asking how do you make two rooms connected by a corridor. So let's look at how that can be accomplished. Right now we're looking at room 1. I'll press Alt-E to enter the editor. I'm going to click on New. We're being warned that we're going to erase our orb. Not a problem, room 1 is stored on my hard drive. I click Yes, and now we have nothing. So I'm going to go over to Domain, and I'm going to click Add. We now have a domain. It's 128 tall. I'm going to make this 196. The ceiling, I'm going to make that stucco 3. The floor, I'm going to make that carpet 11. And we're done with this. So I'm going to go to walls. Click. And right now we have 128 as the size of our grid pattern. Let's turn the grid on. G will do that, or you can click this button down here. And I'm going to zoom in using the Z key. Start again. I clicked with the left mouse button, and let's make this we'll make it 2 units. That's 256. And I want to give that texture the name stucco 3. Now the front of this wall is set to domain 0. Let's scoot back over. Our one and only domain is domain 0, so all is good. Now I know that I'm going to be making a corridor, so I'm going to plan ahead. I click to start a wall, then I'm going to stop right there. Make another wall. Okay. And now I'm going to make a slightly longer wall and then finish this up. Now I have a room. I have a room, but I have no player. So I go over to the objects and I click once with the left mouse button, and I've now added a standard player. I now go to the view menu. All I have to do is visit the view menu and the view def is automatically created. Okay, if all has gone well, we should have an orb that is ready to view. So I'm going to press Alt S to save this orb. I'm going to give this orb a name. Now the name I give it will be similar but different from the name you give your orb. I'm recommending that you use a pattern like this if you want to avoid having one of the downloaded games interfere with your own orbs. So I call this CWN Z to put it into one area at the bottom of my orb list. CWN is my initials, and I'm going to call this 0100. I already have somewhere in the neighborhood of 90 test orbs, so I'm just going to start with 100 since I know that that's not used. I press enter. That orb is now saved. Now I'm going to load it. Okay, we have a rather small room. That's part of the challenge. Now let's make a corridor. Alt-E. And in order to have a room with a corridor, there needs to be a corridor which will be a separate domain. So I'm pressing the insert key. I could have just as easily clicked the add button. Now I'm going to make this 128 tall. I want my corridor to be shorter. I'll keep the same carpet and stucco ceiling. Now I go back over to my walls. I'm going to click this wall. This wall is now going to become a two-sided wall. It's going to have a front and a back. The back is going to be facing our corridor, which is domain 1. The front is still 0. And now we need to make a corridor. So I've selected this wall so that it gives me a default pattern to start with, and I'm going to lay in 1. I'll do 3. We'll do a nice long corridor. Now I have to remember to change this front to corridor 1, which is domain 1. Now I put the end of the corridor, and then I put in the other side. If we go back to domains, we see nice white line showing that that's a well-built domain. That's a well-built domain. Everything looks fine. So let's take a look at it. Alt S, Alt L, and when we go back, there is our corridor. Alright, now let's build our second room. Before we do that, I want to darken the ceilings and see what happens. Alright, might be a little too much difference in the darkness, but it gives you an idea of what's possible. Let's make that a -5 instead. There, that's what we're looking for. Now we can clearly see the hallway ceiling as distinct from the room walls. Now then, we are going to need a third domain to be the next room. So let's hit that add key. However, I'm going to make this 256 tall. So I select my domain 0, which has, 196. It has a 196 height. So I'm going to click add or press insert while that room is selected, so that the new room carries forward its defaults, which is 196. Now we'll go back to walls. This wall now has the front of 1 and a back of 2. And we shall make the next room. Remember, it's going to have a front of 2. We'll keep it as stucco. No point getting lost in switching textures at the moment. I'm pressing X to get a slightly further back view. And let's make this a nice long room. There we go. Let's save this. Reload. Edit. And here we have a corridor and 2 rooms. Alright, good luck with your blue lining.